Hey guys, I'm Jeff, or Wisconsin Oliver Nut, and welcome to part 7 of the Oliver Collection Tour. This is going to be on the 50 series and 55 series. There is 7 50 series and 2 55 series, so I figured I'd just throw them in one video, and this will complete the collection tour of the tractors. And then I'll move on to the equipment and plows. I get it, man. All right, it is 23 degrees out and I am suited up with winter coat and snow pants. I kind of wish I would have filmed this when it was a little bit warmer out, but here we are. A week before Christmas. Alright, I'll start the video with this one because it's the first of the 50 series, the smallest that we have. And the tradition of the other videos was to start small and work my way up, regardless of the year. So this is a 1968 Oliver 1550. And you can see that it's original. I don't know how your lighting is in the video. Original paint, so you can see here it got a little rusty. Other than that, it's a pretty sweet tractor. It's even got the original frame plugs in yet. Nice wide front. It's a 1968. This is a gas. This was a local buy. A third one of our tractors are local buys. 1550s were built between 1965 and 69. These came out a little bit later because the 770s were popular and they were making them for a while. So this would eventually replace the 770. Be a 232 cubic inch on both the gas and diesel. Putting out about 53 horsepower. I always like to say, or at least tell myself, that these numbers on the 50 series, actually on all of the 100 series 50s, 55s, are fairly close to the horsepower, but not exact. So this being 53 horsepower, that's close. Both engines, the gas and the diesel, were produced the same power because the gas's compression ratio was lowered and the diesel was kept the same. 1550s were the smallest of the 50 series and just a nice cool little model. It's like an updated 88 pretty much. Dash is original, so a little bit of rust on here. I bet you some of that would clean up. 2-speed hydropower on here. Original seat cushions yet in pretty nice shape. Remember I said 65 was the green, so the 5050s won't even have the green because they came out later. Here's certified horsepower. This one is kind of runs like a turd, so we got to figure out why. It could be anything from carb to manifolds to distributor stuff, but some of the distributor stuff was done. It's got a new distributor and electronic ignition. So we'll have to play around with that because this is a sweet tractor because it's just the right size where it's not too huge, but it also is big enough to do some of the jobs that require a little bit more horsepower. So this is a 1966 Oliver 1650. As you can see, it's got a loader on it. I don't know if it's a Ford or what kind of loader is blue. It's got a ram on each side and then 2 rams for the front tilt. Gas model. I got a couple of videos of it from, I don't know if it was in spring of this year, where we were trying to get it running, maybe last fall, something like that. really crappy gas in here. So we gotta take the tank off and clean it out really good, and then I think it'll run decent. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, it should be a good runner. I guess you call this like a farm tractor because it's just a little beat up. You know, stuff with a loader generally goes through a little bit more abuse than non-loader tractors. Looks like they welded this on here, the seat, welded on the bracket. At least they didn't weld it right on the frame. They welded on the bracket and then bolted it on. So that's good. 1650s were built between 64 and 69. And this would have about a 265 cubic inch gas, putting out about 66 horsepower for the diesel model. And similar for the gas. I think we have tires to put on the front, hubs or something like that. But I know the front needs a little bit of work on the wheel department. Yeah, other than that, can't go wrong with a 1650. Next we have our 1750. It's been seen in quite a few of my videos. This is a 1967 model. I painted it in 2009 about. It was pretty much a basket case. This one was going to be one of the ones that would have seen the scrapyard, I'm sure. Because it was sitting in an implement yard, had the head off, and there was cardboard laying over the pistons and sleeves. This one actually, when I took it apart, the governor shaft had broke. And that might be what made it go, but the original head came with it, but it had the pieces of the valve just pushed right into the head. So I had to get a different head for it. I'm thinking it was like an 1800 head or something. I got it shipped, and then that engine was rebuilt. New tires on it, and looks like what you see here. The hydropower was pretty bad on it. I put different. I remember going through it. Some of the stuff was pretty bad. The discs, the clutch discs and stuff. Just went through it. I converted it from the original engine fuel pump to, well, actually at first I started with none because I was reading in the forums and stuff that, oh, you don't need a fuel pump on here because your fuel's so much higher that'll feed. Well, I found out that it does okay if you have a lot of fuel in it, but if you have a hilly, anything hilly, it ain't gonna keep up with it. Especially because that carb is the aluminum one, and it's I think it's made to be pressurized. I'm quite sure. So it's that TSX or USX carb on it. So I believe it needs a little bit of pressure to keep feeding it. So my dad eventually put this electric fuel pump on it, and it's fine. I mean, I could always convert it, but the reason why I didn't is because, well, people were saying, no, you don't need that, but yeah, you do. And the one that goes on the engine, if they go bad, they can leak fuel into the engine. So at least this way you don't have fuel contamination of the oil. But I don't have anything against the original ones either, because, well, they're original. But you have a lot of lines that you have to try and keep from leaking too. Because really that one you have to go from the fuel tank all the way over to here and then back over to the other side of the engine. So it's just a lot of fuel lines. 1750s were built between 1966 and 1969. So they came out a little bit later. 1550 was 65, 1650 was 64. So yeah, a couple years later. Most of them were 64 to 69. So 1750 came out 2 years later. 80 horsepower PTO for the gas and diesel. Be the 283 cubic inch in here. The diesel was a 310 cubic inch, same as in the 1800 BNC, but the speed would have increased to 2400 RPM, and that's on the diesels. So there's little specs on it. So it's about 80 horse tractor, so See, it's pretty close, 75. You could say it's right between the drawbar and the PTO, really. Yeah, and that's about it on this one. And let's move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to start with this 1850 4x4 here. It is a 1965. It's the oldest 50 series we have. And bear with me if I start slurring my words, because I'm going to get cold eventually. 1965, so we bought this fairly local buy. I had them deliver it. Charge a little bit more for delivery, and I think it was a Wilkie's Classic Tractors. I think they were at Half Century this year. They had some stuff. I think that's where we got it from. I have to look, but it's as you can see, it's original. A lot of weights on the front. We would like to take a few of them off because maybe leave 2 of them. That's a lot of weight up there. 4x4. It's got the hydropower on it, the 2-speed. Otherwise, it would have the lever here. And you can see the original paint on it. It is. It's actually pretty straight. It's a nice original, actually. It's got the older color here. I mentioned that in one of the videos when they changed that. I don't remember off the top of my head. Otherwise, it would be white like the 17 here. The white's right here. And typically they'd have 2 headlights, but they had specials. You've heard of the 1850 specials. Seen them in a few of my show videos, where they'd have 1 headlight here and stuff. Let's see. This one in the spring we were using it, and the water pump went. Let's see if I can move that fan. And what else we got going on it? The hydropower definitely leaks. Must be a seal out because she leaks pretty bad. Because it won't even move. And then the chain broke in that one video I showed. It lost all of its propulsion and the chain broke. I think actually the master link came apart. But this it's not wobbling a lot, but when it's running she's really wobbling. The 1850s were built between 1964 and 69. This one would have the 354 cubic inch Perkins, putting out about 92.94 horsepower. So the seats on these were updated. So you got this track going up like that, and then the torsion, instead of having the 2 rubbers like the 1900 has over here. Aside from the bus seat, you see the 2 rubbers. You'd have a shroud over it, and you'd mount your seat on top of it. The rubbers are kind of like from the Fleetline era, all the way up to the 3 digits. Well, after that, they came out with this complete assembly. You can just bolt right on it, and your torsion is now in here. That's 3 bars. I've taken one apart already. They're actually pretty neat. It's just 3 flat plates of metal, and it twists. And it's got a shock absorber here to absorb the shocks and stuff. You do have an upholstered seat. Your steering wheel, the 1900 and 1800 Series C would have had the first ones to come out with the tilt steering wheel, and then the telescoping and the throttle, like from the 1900 here, was moved from the steering column to here. You see the 1900 dash should just be bare on that side. Nothing there. 50 series had the dry type air cleaner. Late in 67 brought the hydro shift, so the 3-speed. And I got new optional PTOs. I could switch from 540 to 1000 RPM. Let's see, early 50 series, the light panels and the fender were green. And mid 65 they switched to white. So with that said, I said this was a 1965, right? Where did my thing go? It's over there. $156,209. Yeah, $156,209 would be in the earlier serial ranges. Midway would be about 160,000. So 160 will be approximately midway. So it does check out to have these green. Here is a Cockshutt 1850. It is 1967, so same year as the 1750. And after White bought Cockshutt in 62, they started having Oliver build the tractors for him again. So that's why they have a red one. And I told the story about more of that and some of the other ones, so if you want to hear that again, watch all of the collection tour. Everything would be the same as the Oliver version. This one was auction, but a Lulich auction. Bought this at one of the, they used to have, they called them extravaganza auctions in spring, and they'd have quite a few tractors, and then they started with more toys, and now I think they just do toys. Which the tractors is all the only thing that brought me to those auctions, so I don't have that. I mean, I'd be happy just going to an auction, just eating and getting a burger and just looking around and looking at stuff, because I like that. And I like the old style auctions where you actually go there and not just sit at your computer and bid online. I remember getting this. We bought this there, and I think my dad added these spacers to it after to get the wheels in line for plowing. But at the auction, I remember, what was it? It was low on fuel. Because you know what it's like at auctions, people will start stuff up and let it run. They'll let it run half the day, and you don't know where it's at when you get it. So we were going around on to the trailer, and she ran out before we got it to the trailer. Ran out of fuel. Then it wouldn't turn over because the battery didn't have enough juice. So we had to go around looking for some fuel. We had to go looking around for a jumper pack or something. And finally we were using this to prime it, and just couldn't get it to go with the battery and the jump pack, so we ended up towing it with the truck and the trailer. We just hooked it to the back of the trailer rail and tow started it. And as I said in other videos, all those adventures are memories. They are memories. So everything on this would be the same as the Oliver. As far as the specs, this one's got the Perkins diesel just like that Oliver does, and this one is a little bit different though, because this one's got, the Oliver version has 3-point hitch, and this one is more of a Wheatland. So you got like a different drawbar. See how this one's narrow. This one's got a real wide one, and it has no 3-point arms. So your hydraulics work on a completely different design here. So you got these, must be like full valve adjusters, and your filter is here. It's just a different design on this versus this style, where you have this whole thing. It's like a 3-point. This one here has got this like this raised thing for the seat, and then just run the hydraulics a simpler way. See how the levers come up like this, real long. It doesn't have the thing coming out here. This would be like a hydroelectric. You should have switches here. Yeah, right here. And here's the wire for it. It's got some connectors here. As I said, this one's pretty original. Here's the buttons. They're not even froze. But yeah, fender fuel tanks on here to add a lot of fuel capacity to it, whereas this one doesn't have that. And my dad really loves this tractor, so I think it's probably his favorite one. And I really like the Perkins because pretty much if they turn over, they run. In my opinion, very reliable and one of the best ones I'll ever had, I think. Next we have this 1968 Oliver High Crop. This was bought at the, I believe it was the Sparky Duro auction in Iowa. And it is a high crop, so as you know, it is really high up here. It's way higher than a regular one. Probably by about a foot. This is taller here, and then the back drop boxes make it taller there. Yeah, you're looking at probably at least a foot there. So when you get up on these, you are high up. My brother put these steps on it to make it easier. Otherwise, she was a climb to get up here. But you are up here, and when you drive this thing, it's almost scary at times, especially when you load it onto a trailer, especially a gooseneck trailer. She's really high up then. What does this one need? This one just needs to run. Battery charge and run it. This one did have an issue when you got it. Let's see if I can get down here without breaking my butt. That's what this handle is nice. As we get older, we need that. This one had an issue when you got it, is it wants to kind of like steer to one side. You have to kind of like fight it. And I don't know if it's in the power steering cylinder here or if it's up here. I don't really know. I don't know if that is going bad or what. But you know, when you buy stuff, even when it's painted, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be perfect, right? So, and sometimes you don't even know, because sometimes I've had it before where you run something before it's painted and it works great, and then when you paint it, it just gives you problems. I've seen it with tractors that pull good too. They pull great when they're rusty, and then when you paint them, they want to give up. Just the same specs on here. Perkins diesel 354, cav filter, or like the cav pump. You always can tell them probably from a distance by this injection pump that stands up. And that goes right into the whites too, that have that same design. Alright, let's move on. So some of you might ask, why didn't you just get all these tractors out and put them in a line? You don't even know how much work it was to get the ones we had out. That was over 2 weeks to get them out, because you know, they're just, you're fighting time, and we had the tractor ride guys coming to look, and we have this much time, and some of them we didn't even have time to get running. But for you guys, not only are you seeing way more than what they got to see, because you're seeing the equipment and some of the ones that were in the barn that are not running. But after this, I'll have a video of getting some of the ones that were just towed out and getting them running. So here we have a 1968 Oliver 2150. There's another fairly local buy. Bought it with the clutch out. And what else? One time it had a loader on it. This panel got beat up because I don't know if they were taking the loader off and it tipped. I don't know what happened, but when we got it, it didn't have a loader on it. I think that's how it was advertised, that it had a loader. And the story on this, well, it's got a narrow row cab, so that comes with different fuel tank fenders that bolt to the cab. I kind of like that cab. It's kind of cool. Narrow row, it's called. That might be an Oliver cab. Their own. I'm not sure. I think it was in the parts book, possibly. So took it to the school, and I think I got new manifolds, and I got the new clutch put in it, and I think I found a different injection pump for it, and it's a good runner. We have never used four-wheel drive on it because when we got it, these tires are actually too big in the front for the back, and you have to have them matched, because if you don't and you run it in four-wheel drive, you're gonna have problems eventually, especially if you go on pavement. And I think, well, when we looked at the transfer case, the teeth are off the gears, so somebody beat the drivetrain pretty good, and I think it's because of the loader and then having too big of tires. I don't know. So we ended up getting a different transfer case for it. That wasn't cheap, but it was a new old stock one, and that would be right down here. Can't really see it. And we also got a drive shaft for it, but we have to get, the reason why we don't run this one much is the tires are not much on it. Let me show you the other side. These have to be smaller. We have to get them the right size. They're supposed to be to match the back. And with this one here, isn't much. One of them's got a pretty bad part. We better get at it pretty soon though to get this up. I do have a couple videos of it running though. The back tires ain't much, so you won't want to go too much and they'll let you down, but guys should save up some money and throw some rubber on it. But all that costs money, you know. As a stay-at-home son, I had a little bit more money to throw at stuff. But now that I'm a homeowner, I don't have as much. The 2050 and the 2150 were basically the same, except the 2150 had a bigger clutch and a turbo. They were built between 1968 and 69. So this being a 1968 model, there was quite a few changes on them too as far as engine updates. 478 cubic inch Hercules in here. The 2050 had a 13-inch button clutch and 14-inch on the 2150. And 2050 was 118 horse, 2150 like this one, 131 horse. And that's where these numbers really get screwy. It no longer works. Normally the four-wheel drives had a regular rear axle, so you know, one coming out like this, and then the rear wheels bolted to that, the hub and stuff. On the four-wheel drives, they normally would have that because the front end took a third of the torque away from the back. And all two-wheel drives had the rear planetary drive, so like this, where you have gears inside here that reduce the amount of torque that are actually on the axle itself. But they had what was called the extra heavy duty model, which is what this one is, which was four-wheel drive, and it came with the back planetaries to reduce the strain on the axle. And you could also get an optional category 3 3-point. So these were only built 2 years, so they were not very common. But yeah, you had the big bad Rams on here. That were huge. Same with what the 22s, 55s got. So hopefully this one will be one that we get to soon. But who knows. Alright, the 2150 ends the 50 series, and we'll go on to the 255 series that we have, starting with this 1655 here. This is a four-wheel drive model, as you can see, and there weren't many of them built. This was a fairly local buy. I think it was Wilkie's as well, same as the 1850, but I'm not positive on that. They're not real far away. They're like middle of state or something. This one is a 1975. And this one happens to be the 18th from the last one built. So the serial number of this one is 263322, and the last one built is 263340. So if my math is correct, 18th from the last one built. And the 55 series brought a lot of updates to the ollies, most notably these headlights in the front, whereas you didn't have it here. You just had the Oliver logo. This went to a decal. 1655s are built between 1969 and 1975. The gas would have a 265 cubic inch, and the diesel was 283. This is the diesel version. About 70 horsepower, so there comes the numbers, worked pretty close. 70 horse, 65 in the model number. Helical gear transmission on this one. I think the 1555 was still spur. Hydro shift was available, and this one has it because see the lever here. You could get fender fuel tanks for them. This guy here needs some stuff. I ran when parked, right? But this is original paint on here. You see it's got the hole plugs in it, frame holes. What are other differences on 55s? These flares here. They went to a closed center hydraulics. Black dash panel here, whereas here, 2150 here had white. Why don't we run this one? That is the question. This one did run when we got it, and we ran into what we call a horse barn, which is another one of our buildings. And it's called that because there used to be horses here a long time ago. And my brother and I were trying to get it running because we were going to run it a couple of years after it was parked, and she wouldn't fire. We were told starting it, and then he had the battery on it with the remote starter, you know, a button, and it was turning over fast enough. Started cracking some of the lines, and we had fuel. I think we had fuel to the pump, but I don't think it was coming out of the pump. I think that's what we ended up with, cracking these. So I don't know if something twisted off from being towed or turned over. Something probably just froze on it in the pump, I'm thinking, after it was shut off and sitting there for a while. That's what I'm thinking. This is definitely new here. Did they really have white tops? Or was that painted? I don't know. Other than that, what a weight here. This is a nice original tractor, really. I'm sure it was probably being used probably fairly recently before we got it. Before it got traded to Wilkie's or whatever. The 16s, 15s had this arm here for the 3-point, the top link, and then top link here A lot of times they'd let go here and then swing down and whack a hole in the cover. But yeah, this is definitely one that we need to throw some time at. Get him running. I know that when we're running it, it had pretty loose or war shifting. So that might need some attention too, but first things first, get it running. Hear the beast roar. Okay, I have one left to do, and it is starting to get dark. You can't really see it on here, but it is. The good old 2255 is next. Okay, here's the last tractor in the collection tour. It's a 1974 Oliver 2255. And it was a local buy. It was actually one of the implement dealers that we would get a fair amount of our tractors from. We'd just go stop there and see what they have. I remember they'd have, you know, weeds you'd have to go through. You know, just a big lot with stuff parked. And we'd stop there, and my dad and I would look around, stop on the way back from Green Bay or whatever. I remember throwing burdock on them. You know, you pick the burdock and make a little ball, and you throw them at him. And then he yells at you. Oh, good memories. Well, this was a local buy. It was at that implement dealer, and saw this, and I thought the price was reasonable, so bought her up. And she was a runner. They delivered it here. It's got the spacers in the front, 3208, so the newer cat in here. This is the largest tractor that we own. We never really got into the whites or the Minneapolis Moline versions, I guess. I wouldn't mind them, but we just, I don't know, like, we don't have room. And how many can you have? I think we have too many anyway, just because it's hard to keep them all going. It really is. But one of the things that I will say my YouTube channel does do and does help with is keeping me motivated to work on some of these, getting them running, and then making videos to show you guys. Because if it wasn't for that, I think they would sit even more than they do. I definitely know that to be a fact. So I appreciate everybody that watches, because you help me out in ways that you don't know. I don't have specs written down in my notes. That is where all the other info came from. But looking online on the tractor data, they were built between 72 and 76. Obviously it has a V8 cat in it. It's showing a 9.4 liter 8-cylinder diesel and a 10.4 liter 8-cylinder diesel. So I'm assuming the bigger one is the 3208. This has a 3-speed hydro shift in it. This would be about 146 horsepower. This and the 2655 were really close in horsepower. This one slightly beat the 26, being the biggest Oliver that there was. But the 26 is bigger size-wise. The 55 series brought hydraulic brakes, parking brake, stuff like that. I know this guy is a heavy one. That is for sure. We do have some videos that are running, but we do need to get it starting better on its own, or at least starting on its own, period. As I think the fuel actuator on it is not working properly. Or it just needs some love. It needs to work. This one should have the got fender fuel tanks. This is the narrow row cab 2, I believe, same as the 2150. It says the category 3 6,000 pound lift, those big Rams. But it should be the same cab as the 2150 over there. It's got these pinstripes on it. I want to say they're original, I don't know. Or does someone paint the cab? I don't really know. Look at that. What's some flair, huh? Some flair on that guy. Oh, one last thing on a 2255. It would be the last tractors to roll off the assembly line wearing the Oliver green with the Oliver name on. All right, well, I think that's going to conclude the Oliver Collection Tour videos. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching them. And as always, thanks for watching all of my videos, or any of them. And I am going to go on to plows and equipment at some point, but it's kind of weather permitting because we got some snow at the end of November, and it's kind of hard to video plows that have the plow bottom covered in snow and stuff. So I'm gonna do the best I can with what I have. Yeah, I could wait till spring, but I want to kind of get the collection tour done, and then I can move on from there. I should have at least one video of getting this guy up to the yard here, 431 combine, but we ain't gonna get to trying to get it running until it warms up a little bit. But that should be a fairly fun video for you guys. So we had to go through quite a bit of stuff to get it here. Do you like Oliver tractors and equipment? If so, you can show me support by hitting that thumbs up or thumbs down if you hated it. Leave a comment. Consider subscribing. It's free. YouTube will notify you when I release a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.